What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JRich back for another episode of Across the Pod with my main man Tom. We're doing some preseason. We're talking defenders today, the defenders you need in your FPL squad for game week 1 and beyond. But first, before we get started, Tom, new season 26-27, but maybe some of the same old in terms of strategy. What are you looking at, and are you excited for a new season of FPL, my friend?
Yeah, look, it's great to be back. We're looking at defenders, which is probably the least exciting of the group. But yeah, like you say, we're looking at DEFCON, we're looking at attacking defenders. I think we can rattle through it quite quickly, but there is some exciting little picks in and amongst there. So happy to kind of get into the data and kind of talk through it.
Absolutely. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so I think from DEFCON perspective, it just continues to be the, overbearing thing with defenders. I think previous years, 3, 4, 5 years ago, everyone was just going attacking. Now DEFCON's just in the mix completely, and I think you get way more value for money, way more routes to points through defenders. They can get clean sheets and DEFCON on top of that, and if you can also get to centre backs which have the aerial threat. I mean, we look at Gabriel last season, was absolutely crazy. So what we want to highlight here was 8 defenders which averaged over 10 DEFCON. So 10 is the threshold for DEFCON. These are the 8 defenders which got that last season. And I think the most exciting ones are 2 of the new picks for the coming into the league. Vušković for Brighton, coming from the Bundesliga, at 12.5 DEFCONs per 90 and 0.18. So he's got the best goal involvement threat as well of the lot.
Yeah. No, it's definitely intriguing for sure. Now, a player obviously coming from the Bundesliga to the Premier League, some adjustment there, but a hole left in Brighton with Van Dijk going over to Tottenham. He should be playing every game. A lot of minutes there, lots of opportunity. DEFCON should come for him fairly easily. And especially at $5 million, a great price for a budget defender who's probably going to play as many minutes as a lot of these starters you'd probably pick anyway. So he may be our Tarkowski, let's say, from last season, where he was great getting DEFCON every week, obviously on this list as well. But this year priced at $6 million instead of, I believe, the 4.5 or 5 he started at last year. So that is a great shout for the budget pick. Senesi, of course, your big fave from who played for Bournemouth last year, again, going to Tottenham as well. I like that pick, but again, is he going to be as effective this year playing with other center backs? That's part of the problem. $6 million price is a bit of an issue because depending on how you build your defense, if you want Haaland, and especially if you want Haaland and Bruno, you're going to have to cut somewhere else. So I like all these choices. Most intriguing for me has to be Lacroix. If they play that 5-back, he's very familiar with it from when he played at Palace, going to Chelsea. If they play that 5-back, I absolutely love him. He's an aerial threat. He's going to anchor that defense, probably get a ton of DEFCON, and playing on a much better squad in Chelsea this year. So I really like Lacroix, and I like the shout over there for Vušković.
Yeah, definitely. I think Vušković is an interesting one because from what I've been seeing is people think that the manager may go with Lewis Dunk early on and let Vušković ease into it. So that's why I'm kind of like a wait and see. But the value is crazy at $5 million to have the best DEFCON and best attacking threat. It's kind of a wait and see for me, but if you want to go for him early, I don't mind the risk. Muharemović, again, he played for Leeds in preseason, looks relatively good. He's very aggressive, which is good for DEFCONs, but even in the preseason games, he didn't quite meet the threshold. I mean, it's not necessarily, preseason is not necessarily a good indicator, but a lot of people are, prepping Leeds up to have quite a good season and relatively easy opening fixtures. Don't hate him at $5 million. Could be easy to go for him first, knowing he's going to start for Leeds. And then if Vušković is starting and doing well, easily transition $5 million to $5 million.
That's true.
Senesi, like you said, I'm kind of a wait and see. $6 million is a lot to not be certain whether he's going to start with Van de Ven, Romero, everyone else playing. Does he start from the beginning? Do they play 5-back? Wait and see for me. Canvot is probably the one lock in my defense right now, which is interesting because I think the first 3 don't know whether they're going to start. 2 of them are new to the league. Canvot is going to play every game for Palace with Lacroix going, and he's averaging over 10 DEFCON, 11.2 DEFCONs a game. So he's a 90-minute lock for Palace, which is a relatively good defense, and DEFCONs over 10. I don't want my defenders to be a risk of minutes, so I think Canvot's a really good option in the Palace defense. The other one, which I think is in the same vein, is Ballard, which I've seen a lot of people are picking up. Is going to play 90 minutes for Sunderland, averages over 10 DEFCONs per game. I think a lot of people are looking at like the likes of Maguire and others, which are averaging around 8-9 DEFCONs. I just don't think it's worth it. You're picking it for the lock, and at the same price, you may as well pick a defender that's going to get it in the majority of weeks rather than not. And although it pains me to pick a Sunderland defender, I'm definitely considering Ballard for opening fixtures of Ipswich and Fulham, and then Brentford. Maybe not a long-term pick, but Ballard looks pretty decent. And then the rest is the two from last season that we love, Lacroix and Botman. Lacroix and Tarkowski, definitely not Botman.
Botman, yeah.
Yeah.
Lacroix
and Tarkowski, if they both play, you're looking at getting 170 points plus a season, which is the same as, an 8-9 million midfielder potentially. So if they're both playing and you don't want the risk of going for one of these 5 mils that might not play, Tarkowski has been in the start front since the start of mine. It's just, I think Canvot and Ballard, if you look at it, they offer you the same thing for $1 mil less. So
that's true.
For me, I'm kind of torn on Tarkowski. Botman, I think there's just better option. With Newcastle, who knows what's going to happen this season? New manager. I went to the preseason game against Bristol City. Botman scored an own goal and we conceded 4. So Botman's not going anywhere near any of my drafts, but he definitely brings up the rear of these DEFCON ones.
Yeah, for sure. And I did want to ask you about Canvot versus Chris Richards, right? Who, again, probably another staple in the Palace defense. I believe he's 5.5, though, again, more used to playing that spot, probably will take the center spot there, Richards. I like him a lot, but maybe that 0.5 savings is good for you. The one thing I will say for people who are looking at building their teams, I find that the 5 mil defender spot is a little bit pricey depending on how many you want to get in there. Usually you want to get like a 6 mil plus guy. If you want to get all the way to Gabriel, of course, it's going to cost you quite a bit. But even getting some of those 5 mil guys in there is a little bit difficult. So just have to manage that for how you're looking at your budget. But definitely like a lot of these options for sure. So let's get into the attackers next because it is a very interesting list and I like it quite a bit.
Yeah, the attacking defenders. So I think O'Reilly, we can see the stats compared to last season. Like, it's absolutely crazy. 5 goals, 4 assists. If he continues to play that sort of role under Maresca, you're basically getting an attacker with all routes to points of assists, goals, DEFCON as well, potentially, but also clean sheets. And Man City had, the second best expected goals conceded from a defensive perspective last season. And I think they'll continue to do well. So for me, O'Reilly is just so expensive at 6.5 though. And then if he's not guaranteed to play, we don't really know how Maresca is going to set up. For me, it's a wait and see, but I just think if you go for him early and he plays and he scores 15 points in the first and you're ahead of the curve, then that's a pretty good look. But yeah, the rest as well, quite interesting. Munoz in recent years has been great from attacking perspective, scored almost matched O'Reilly's attacking output. Has really good attacking output, but Palace as well, obviously changing manager, not really too sure what's going to happen. For me, I'm probably looking elsewhere. I think O'Reilly probably above Munoz. I think Munoz at 5.5 is slightly overpriced. The rest, Nico Williams, I'm seeing in loads of drafts at 5 million. The fact that now the manager, they've got Glasner. So basically the way Palace played and Munoz was that bit, at times basically a right winger. In preseason, Nico Williams has either been setting up on the right or the left wing. So his involvement has been absolutely crazy. He's got assists. It looks like he's like right up the pitch. So if he's now the outlet that Munoz was. I don't know whether his finishing is quite as good or effective, but he's getting assist potential. And Williams has always naturally been quite an attacking defender. For 0.5 less, you're getting a Forest defender that's basically playing right or left wing, which I think is probably better value than Munoz. So out of the first 3, I would probably pick Williams over Munoz and O'Reilly. Just given O'Reilly's so expensive, we're not sure on minutes. And Munoz, you're basically getting Nico Williams is basically Munoz now for the season for 0.5 less.
Yeah.
The last 2 are quite interesting because Palestra, I know that you've got some thoughts on as well, so keen to hear. But if he can play the role, that Xabi Alonso likes playing, it's like Grimaldo when he's at Leverkusen or others. And even in preseason, I was seeing screenshots of where he's been playing up front. It's basically like at times edge of the box, in the box crashing. If he can do that and he's Chelsea's outlet this season from that position where the right back kind of drops in and he pushes up. It's a really interesting one. I don't know what you think about that one.
Yeah, so for me, O'Reilly's probably not going to make my team. Love O'Reilly. Like, he is a phenomenal player, but he is priced accordingly this year, right? Last year, he was cheap, played a ton. If you got him early, you got to create value, but at 6.5, there's just, for me, I'd just rather have Gaydee. He's going to play every game. He's going to get some DEFCON here or there. I'm just more certain about what I'm going to get, and I'm saving 0.5, which I think is kind of worth it if you're looking at defenders as like an anchor, right? For me, it's Lacroix and Gaydee are kind of the two anchors at 6 million I'm looking at, and then I'm kind of going cheaper from there as far as my defenders go. Love the shout on Williams. I'm curious whether it be him or Aina, who isn't quite as fit, but had a great season 2 years ago and was great for FPL as an attacking threat. Both those guys will probably be heavily involved. I am very intrigued by Palestra, kind of like you said, depending on how he's using that new Xabi Alonso system. But with so many moving parts, and we'll obviously get to the midfields and we talk Rodgers and Palmer, there's just a lot going on at Chelsea right now we have to kind of figure out. And then, of course, VVD, he's always great. I will point out that the fixtures for Liverpool are very good to start. So if you want to go for just like a set and forget, obviously has attacking threat, will get you DEFCON, some clean sheet potential, and just great opening fixtures. Liverpool looks very, very good, at least for me and what I've been looking at from just about every angle. They have a lot of underpriced midfielders. Virgil looks very good. It's really just whether or not you want to put Isak in the team or not. I really like this list, and there's some cheaper guys I really like as well that we'll kind of get to further down the line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's an interesting one. With Virgil outscoring O'Reilly, and he's a lock for, getting DEFCONs as well. I'd argue that if you want to get a 6.5 in there, I'd go for Virgil over O'Reilly probably early.
Yep, I tend to agree, 100%.
And then obviously we've had the omission of the Arsenal defenders up until now, so good to get them in. I'm seeing a lot of people potentially double up, and there's obviously a lot of discourse right now about Mosquera versus Calafiori, so good to get your thoughts on that. But firstly, Gabriel is 25% owned, which I think for the average manager that's just picking up FPL and playing it is picking him because he did so well last season. I think those of us which are more engaged managers are looking at 8 million and going absolutely nowhere near that. Yeah. When you can get Mosquera for 2.5 million less, or Calafiori, who are both pretty much pegged to start, 2.5 million and probably the same. At the same time, Virgil van Dijk scored more goals than Gabriel last season. So for me, Gabriel's massively overpriced, and that for me would make me pivot. If I want an Arsenal defender, I'm picking between Mosquera, Calafiori, and then it depends on the type of manager that you are. Mosquera for me is probably a safer lock for minutes.
Okay,
but his ceiling is a lot lower. I think he doesn't get DEFCON, and he's probably, if Arsenal keep a clean sheet, he's on a 6-pointer.
Yeah,
Calafiori on the other hand is probably sharing minutes with Hincapié. I think to some extent, I think Calafiori is probably the starting left back. You've obviously got Lewis Scully as well. For me, the ceiling for Calafiori is far more exciting. Got an assist in pre-season. I think last season, he scored that goal against City, obviously, but obviously he also gets assists and he's far more up the pitch, the ceiling's far higher for me. So I think if I was going to go for an Arsenal defender, I think Mosquera is boring. I'd probably go for Calafiori. But then again, it's just depends on what sort of manager you are.
Yeah, so for me, I tend to agree to some extent. The only issue for me, like you said, with Calafiori is the minutes. And that's honestly a threat for me with Arsenal in general. I can't really think of a player outside of Gabriel that I'm pretty sure they're going to start every game, play nearly every minute for the club. Declan Rice probably going to get rested. Saka will get rested quite a bit. I wouldn't be surprised if Calafiori was one of those other players, because he has dealt with so many injuries, just gets rotated frequently. This isn't the same Arsenal team that's chasing the Premier League title from last season. They got the title, they're trying to defend, but I wouldn't be shocked either if their goal this year is actually more set on the Champions League title, which they didn't win last year, more so than repeating as Premier League champions. So that's where I struggle a bit with Arsenal assets from goalkeeper really all the way up to the forward position. It's Raya and it's Gabriel. Those are the two guys I feel very good about what they're going to do. They are priced accordingly, of course. And it's why I've kind of stayed away. And I think depending on how you build, once we get more information from Arteta about how he's going to deploy the squad on a weekly basis, it's an easy pivot to bring in a Calafiori, bring in a Mosquera if the fixtures look good and maybe you get some rotation other places. That's where, for me, I think I'm staying away initially, but I don't mind it. Quick thoughts on Gvardiol, because, again, obviously a lot injured last year. I'm not sure exactly where he's going to play. He played a bit of center back last year with O'Reilly playing on the left. Did they move O'Reilly into the midfield? They obviously brought in Anderson. So there's a lot of moving parts at City along with the new manager there. But what are your thoughts on Gvardiol at 5.5? Seems like a great price, and obviously we know he's got great attacking threat as well.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe quickly before we go into Gvardiol, you just reminded me that I actually think it's in the minority that people are avoiding Arsenal defense. In most FPL drafts, I'm seeing one, if not two, defenders, and I'm in the same boat as you. I think Mosquera and Calafiori are minutes risks. For 5.5, they don't have much. They don't have any DEFCON potential, not much attacking outlay. And for me, I know preseason's not necessarily a good indicator, but I think the last time they conceded 3 goals in 2 games was like 2023, so over 3 years ago. So just haven't looked fantastic in preseason. Obviously, can be different when the league starts, but missing Saliba, big miss, missing Timber, big miss to that lock that was Arsenal's, team last season. And then also, if you look at the first 5 fixtures for them, Coventry at home, obviously a good game, but my bet would be that Coventry probably score first game back in the Prem, and then even if they don't, they keep 1 clean sheet. They got Villa away, Chelsea, Sunderland away, and then Brighton away. I don't think Arsenal keep any clean sheets in the first 5 necessarily. And then at that point, why are you picking Mosquera? I think if you look at the bookies odds, they've got like 47% clean sheet rate average across the first 5. So chances are they probably will, but I just don't think it's quite a lock as it was last season.
Well, that's the thing for me. I don't think this defense is nearly as strong as it was last year. I mean, we don't know when Saliba's going to be back, which is just as important as Gabriel, especially when it comes to just like being that solid piece in the middle. Calafiori and Hincapié. I mean, we saw what happened to Hincapié in the World Cup. He didn't play very well. Calafiori wasn't even playing in the World Cup, so I'm not really too confident in him because I don't think he's the greatest defender either. And then the right side is just much of a question mark. We don't know who's going to be playing on the right side every week. It'll probably be a bit of a rotation, so it's just not as solid in the back as it was in previous years. Now, I think in the midfield, they're much stronger with Bruno and Rice, depending on how they deploy them. That will be very strong, but I'm still definitely concerned about the defense as a whole when it comes to Arsenal assets. So I'll probably stay away because I'm just not going to pay up for Gabriel. I'm just not sure what's going to happen beyond that, but I'm considering maybe bringing Raya in as just like set and forget, play him every week, just to make my life easy and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think my first draft had Raya in and I had him for a few, but then I just wanted the extra money, so I've gone down to Kinsley. So I was just like playing around with it. But it is such a set and forget goalkeeper. I think he got like 170, 180 points last season for a 6 mil player. That's better like value for million than any other player in the game. So if you can find the route to Raya, I think it's just a set and forget, to be honest. Yeah. So I think the last thing to mention was Gvardiol, which I want to get your thoughts on.
What, you want to talk about Gvardiol? Or you're going to tell me? I mean, I like him, but the thing for me with Gvardiol is I don't know where he's going to play. I don't know how often he's going to play. I just think this City team in general, there's only so many assets you feel really confident in their ability to play every single week. Like I'd say Semenyo and Haaland are probably the two that up front that I feel pretty confident they're going to play almost every game or every game. But on the defense, like it's Guéhi, it's Donnarumma. That right side will probably be Nunez for the most part. And then we really don't know who the next center back is going to be. It'll probably be Kusanov. But again, we'll kind of find out as the season progresses a little bit. So it's just, I'm not sure exactly how they want to deploy Gvardiol. Or will he be more of a rotation player, especially early in the season when there's a lot less on the line for City than later in the year, and you kind of know more about what's going on for the squad.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think for me, I think a lot of people are going to go with 3 City assets from the start, which I don't hate necessarily. So it's thinking about...
I probably will.
Do you
one
want
in each level
or not? Yeah, exactly. So I think it's interesting. And Gvardiol at 5.5, good value, is expected goal involvement is high for a defender. Then again, he might be playing that left centre-back role. Doesn't necessarily hit the DEFCON threshold. Is he going to be that attacking if O'Reilly and the likes are going forward instead of him? I'm probably looking elsewhere than Gvardiol, but I'm seeing him in a lot of drafts.
Yeah. No, very, very popular player for sure. And we know he has the potential, but that potential was kind of realized by O'Reilly last year. And now it's how is that all going to come together in concert? But who are your cheap beasts, arguably the most important players in FPL, the cheap players that can still provide you something in case you need to start them? Who are you looking at for this season, Tom?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think there's a lot of good options at 4.0 or 4.5 that you can just put in as your fourth and fifth defenders. The graph there's got defensive contributions along the bottom, so further to the right is better, and then basically attacking threat on the left-hand side, so the higher the better. The ones that I think are quite good at 4.5 if we just talk about DEFCONs first, Rodon is looking quite good
Baller
at that threshold, and also starting for Leeds at right wing back. So in preseason got an assist. So I think if it depends on his role, because if he's right wing back, maybe he'll get less DEFCONs, but if he's now got more attacking potential, I quite like him at 4.5, especially with people paying 5.0 for Muharemović or whatever he's called. You know, you save 0.5, you get a Leeds defender that's got attacking and defensive potential. Aya is an interesting one as well, because he's basically 9.4 DEFCONs per game in a Brentford defense, which I think their fixtures are relatively easy for the first four. I don't hate it. And with Van der Berg out injured, he's basically locked for at least 3 months in that Brentford defense. The one player that's definitely going in my team above both medians is Bobby Thomas from Coventry.
Bobby Thomas, jeez.
You know, good DEFCON potential, probably even more because this is data from the Championship. Coming into the Prem, you're expecting to be a lot more defending.
Yeah.
That fixture in Game Week 2 where I'm seeing lots of people bench boosting with Coventry assets. They got Sunderland at home. I think it's Sunderland. No, they got Hull at home Game Week 2, which I'm seeing a lot of people bench boosting for. So Game Week 2, get Bobby Thomas in, you know, potential clean sheet, DEFCON. I think he's probably the best value 4.0 defender in there. The other one, which is interesting, is Van Oorwijk. I think he got 5 or 6 assists in the Championship last season from right back, 4.0 as well. I feel for me, less value because you're not getting the defensive contributions, probably won't have the same attacking outlay in the Premier League as he did the Championship. And I think he's probably one of the ones that you're going to get the majority of players. I think people are picking him like over 15, 20%. And by Game Week 2, 3, 4, when people start switching, he's going to go down to 3.9 and 3.8. So I'm probably going to avoid Van Oorwijk for now. The other interesting ones for me is Leif Davis for Ipswich, who scored 3 goals in pre-season and got 7 assists. Like, he's going crazy. He was like that in the Premier League as well, one of their best attacking outlays from wing back. Is interesting at 4.0. And I think if I'm going to have 2 4.0s, I'd probably go for Thomas and Davis. Davis has a few good fixtures in the first 5. I know that's great, but it's just because they're Ipswich. And then Thomas, you could probably rotate the 2 if you need an extra sub somewhere. The other ones which I'm seeing pop up on my feed, I mean, you can talk a bit about Kadioglu and Shaw, because I think they're both interesting assets, but it's Hume for Sunderland, who's basically playing right wing. He's the last 7 games, I think, the Premier League last season started. The last 3 or 4 started at right wing, and then in pre-season, the first 3 games he started at right wing, and he scored in his last game. So you're basically getting an asset which could get you. I think he only got like 2 goals and 3 assists last season. But if he's going to start at right wing, and you basically then got more routes to points, you've got a right winger for Sunderland who did very well last season. Relatively good defense, and he's classed as a defender, but he's basically a midfield attacker. I quite like those options where you get a little bit more for your money. And at 4.5, is it 4.5? Yeah,
4.5.
It was really good value.
No, I honestly like a lot of these picks. Rodon is a great pick. He was good last year too. He was a 4.0, I believe, last year, and now 4.5, more than fine. I love the shout on Thomas, especially because Van Oorwijk is really the player that a lot of people have in their team. If anyone who's been paying attention to the ticker below, these are the top 20 players, defenders in ownership, and Van Oorwijk is like 10th overall. I think he's like 19% or something like that. So Thomas, as a natural pivot and a differential, is a great pick. I like the pick of Davis a lot, but I did want to bring up Kadioglu and Shaw, because the interesting thing about those 2 players is if you look at their matchups, and so I was kind of building something out so you can look at this, but it's not finished yet, so we're just going to look at this right now. But if you look at both these players at 4.5 each, you can rotate them almost perfectly. Man United, tons of assets will be in people's Game Week 1 teams. They have back-to-back promoted sides in their first 2 games, so you're going to see a lot of people with a lot of United assets off the jump, so I like Shaw pretty naturally. That's where the 20 24.5% kicks in. But then once that schedule switches over, then you go to Kadioglu, you have Leeds at home, Coventry away. Then when he gets the Arsenal game, you go back to Shaw for Fulham away, Tottenham at home. And then if you want to go to Palace at home for game week 7, you're looking at a stretch of, 7-8 game weeks where these two defenders can fill one of your 3 or 4 or however many slots you want for your defense. So I really like this rotation a lot. I think it's one that could pay off for you. It's not overly expensive. And again, when you're looking at a lot of 5 mil defenders where there's going to be more DEFCON, these are more offensive type players. Kadioglu, especially Luke Shaw. You're not playing for the clean sheets as much, but especially when you look to the opponents they're playing, you're literally playing 4 straight promoted sides, so there's plenty of clean sheet potential for all of these teams. So I really like this rotation for the first 4 weeks, and then you kind of go from there. As you can see, Lacroix on my short list, Gaydee on my short list. But much like you kind of brought up, they're 2 players I really, really like when it comes to budget defenders without having to get too dirty to the promoted side guys that, again, may be fine, but they may also concede 3 or 4 goals in a game, and they're getting heavy negatives as a result. But I love the shout on Thomas and Davis. Then my personal favorites for some of the cheaper ones are Kadioglu and Shaw, especially if you can do that rotation. I think that could pay dividends pretty early in the season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Kadioglu is probably underpriced, and Shaw as well, in 2 relatively good defenses and with good fixtures for both. Kadioglu's attacking potential over the last few seasons has been pretty fantastic, and playing in a Brighton side. Now he's settled in the Premier League. I just think he's got really high upside. Shaw as well is a bit of a no-brainer. If you're thinking about Maguire, just drop 0.5 and Shaw. Then you've got Shaw 4.5. Like you say, the first 2 fixtures, or first 3 even with Everton as well for United, I can see why everyone's going for Luke Shaw.
Yeah, 100%. So, Tom, do you have any final thoughts for our defender preview? For me, I'm keeping it pretty simple. I'm not taking Gabriel. He's probably not going to make my team. I'm looking at probably 1 6 mil defender, and then I'm looking at, the 5 mil, 4.5 after that, and then maybe 1 4.0 is probably how my structure is going to be. I don't want to go too heavy. I'm probably going to end up going with Bruno and Haaland, so keep that in mind as you're building out some of these squads, because if you do intend on having Haaland and Bruno, you're going to have to find ways to save money other places, and getting some of those 5 mil, 4.5 defenders, especially if you wanted to go the route you're speaking of, where you have 4 or at least 3 5 mil defenders that you feel really confident in for DEFCON consistent points. That could be a great strategy as well. That way you're saving a bit of money on the top, but I probably will go with a Lacroix or a Gaydee off the rip. I just love their potential, playing good squads, lots of clean sheet potential, relatively good fixtures to start. But what are your kind of opening thoughts as we kind of go through the defenders and close this out?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm taking a similar approach, but slightly different in that I think I want at least 2 defenders that I know are going to play 90 minutes every game, and I want DEFCON potential. So I'm probably looking at the likes of Ballard or Canvot as that slot, and then I'm probably going to go one which is a little bit more of a risk in maybe a Vušković or Muharemović. One of those that I think's got high ceiling, but also relatively cheap. Equally, I could just drop one of those down to a 4.5 like Shaw and save the money for the midfield and attack, which I think is probably the best way to go for this season, to be honest. So for me, I think last season, one of the things which we did wrong was picking players that aren't going to play 90 or rotation threat. And then you're wasting transfers in the defense to get people that are playing when you actually want to play more aggressive and get the midfielders and attackers early that are starting to do well. So for me, I want to set a defense that I know I don't want to change for 5 game weeks and just be happy with it, regardless of what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I remember last year specifically because I was all in on Forest and I couldn't get rid of them because I didn't want to transfer out defenders and I think I had the goalkeeper as well. So it's like, this is the mistake that you don't want to make. You do not want to get stuck with defenders that are just dead weight, playing terribly, not getting you DEFCON. Lean into the DEFCON, lean into the minutes, because if that foundation of 4 points every week is always going to help your floor and just be consistent gaining points every single week. But I think that's it for the defenders. Tom, as always, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. This has been Across the Pod. Make sure you like and subscribe. The midfield and forward episodes will be coming very, very soon. And then going into next week, we're going to finally do our final team selection as a team. So I'm very excited for that. But thank you everybody for tapping in. We will see you very soon, and we are out. Peace.